A very, very warm welcome to all of you into 6 minutes a day, a journey to your higher self. My name is Justin. You have landed right at Strength Yoga Freedom, either the YouTube channel or the podcast. Whatever you are listening to or watching from, welcome. And whether you are new or just stumbling on, even though today is day 29, all of the trainings, all of the episodes are available for you to go back and rewatch at your own pace. I encourage you to start from the beginning if you have not yet started from the beginning, but also review any trainings that you feel you might need a little refresher in or a little bit more information to review so that you can take yourself to that higher version of yourself that I know that is in there. You just have to tap into it. So as I mentioned, we are at the end, day 29 of this program. Tomorrow is our final day of this program. Now, what I do want to let everybody know though is we have an email list you can join, whether you are listening to this on the podcast or you're watching this on YouTube. It's in the link, the link is in the description. And we're going to be putting out some information on what's coming up on the podcast and what yoga classes are going to be coming out on the YouTube channel. So if you want to take yoga with me on your mat, we're going to do all kinds of different yoga classes, from slower grounded yoga to power yoga. So they're all going to be out there for you. And if you want to be the first person to know what yoga classes are coming out and what episodes and content is going to be coming out on the podcast, please be sure to subscribe to the email list and also subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow the podcasts, share them. All of that really, really makes a big difference right here at Strength Yoga Freedom. So let's get into today's training, day 29. Being aware of patterns of behavior. And as I've been saying for pretty much the entire training, that the training has been broken up into two parts, the 6 minutes a day training. Part 1, all about you. Part 2, all about dealing with the world and other people. And now in that second part, we're putting everything together still. And today I want to talk about being aware of patterns in behavior. So the first place to start to look for patterns of behavior is, of course, within yourself. Now, I say a lot in a lot of our previous trainings. I talk a lot about patterns. And so I want to make sure I'm very, very clear that the first place to look for any kind of behavioral patterns is with you. So I suggest that if you notice that you're starting to form a pattern, which turns into then a habit that is not serving you in some way, or that you find you are not aligned with, or it might be an old habit that is being re-triggered by something that has happened in the past that's coming back into your life again, that it is important to return back to your mindful routines, the mindful practices that you're putting into your life every single day, whether that's your morning routine, your evening routines, your exercising, your journaling, your breathing. And we talked a lot about that again yesterday. We talked a lot about breath work, kind of stimulating the vagus nerve that's in your body. So review all of that information, but it is very, very important to notice if you are developing patterns that do not serve you anymore. So that is the first place that you should look. There are so many ways that you can move past nasty patterns that don't serve you. And we've covered all of that in the past, but I really am trying to hone in to remind you that it's important to look at those in yourself first. Now let's talk about how to put that together with dealing with other people. So I do mention a lot in some of our videos about sometimes making a change in your life with who is around you and who is in your circle, who you communicate with, who you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And so I want to say this. I am not suggesting that you toss people out after you notice something about someone else or their behavior patterns that doesn't fit you, because we're all different and we are all unique. Therefore, everyone has a different way of approaching things. But what we should be looking for is patterns of behavior in others as well, if it starts to affect you. That's why you need to look for yourself first. And then secondly, now that you have that under wraps and you've got it under control, when you notice other behavior patterns happening from other people that start to stir up those things that you felt like you had a little bit of a handle on, that's when it's time to start making decisions about boundaries. That's the second step. If you notice a pattern is starting to occur in someone else's behavior, and you let it go once and you let it go twice, and then suddenly it's starting to impact you, it's time to set boundaries. Now, when you set boundaries, refer back to our boundaries training. We had one a couple weeks ago. When you set boundaries and the boundaries get crossed and they're not being, the other person is not respecting the boundaries that you've drawn, then it's time to make a change. Now, I don't know about you, but I have been someone through my entire life who has set boundaries and never upheld them. And then people would just continue to push and push and push, and all that ends up doing is pushing you down. The other people aren't affected because they're just going about their day-to-day life, but it affects you. It could happen at work, it could happen in your relationships, with your family, with your friends, with all of those things. So when those things start to happen and you start to notice little tiny patterns developing and developing and developing, and the boundaries get crossed and crossed and crossed, then it's time to start making a change. Now, if some of the patterns include verbal or nonverbal abuse, then of course you have to take some drastic action and potentially completely remove people from your life. But it is okay. It is okay. I'm going to say that one more time. It is okay to move people out of your life if their behavior is causing you to not live to your fullest potential. Because at the end of the day, there is only one person that you spend 24 hours a day with for your entire life, and that is you. Nobody else has to be with you all the time. So it's important to understand as well that when you do have to make the very difficult decision to change who is in your life, and that doesn't just mean who is in your life, there could be things in your life like habits and other routines and things that you've developed that don't serve you anymore. When it's time to make a change, when you start to feel guilty, or you feel like you have let someone else down, or you feel like you didn't do enough to support the other person, or they're going through a rough time, when those things happen, it's important to remember that if you are true to yourself and what you will and will not allow, then it becomes easier, even though it's not easy, it becomes easier to make changes to who you're allowing into your life and what you're allowing into your life. Because I have found myself that going out of relationships or leaving places with hate, with anger, with resentment, with jealousy, with rage, never serves me at all. And all it does is stir those emotions back up, and it makes it harder for you to forgive the other person's behavior or that thing. And we're not forgiving other people for them, you're forgiving other people for you. That's how self-love is born and bred. Forgiveness. So if you're leaving relationships after heated, nasty arguments, you've all heard the phrase, you don't want to burn bridges, and it's very important to keep that in mind. Exiting out of places or people with grace is very important, because at some point you have to understand that you are the person who is going to ultimately be responsible for your happiness, not other people. And it's not about other people being bad people or nasty people. It's the behaviors that don't work for you. And if the behavior does not work, then it doesn't work. Forgive yourself. Know that it's okay to tell people, listen, this isn't working, this is it. Or leaving places that you have to leave, this is it. Can't go there anymore, can't do this anymore. Because it's all about remembering that if you let others continue to cross your boundaries over, it leads to resentment, hate, revenge, and then those big high emotions, and you wind up burning bridges. Let it go gracefully. Let the energy go, let it flow, let other people or things or places find their own way, and you move forward in the way that suits you. And you do not owe anybody an explanation because it's your happiness at stake, no one else's, yours. So with that being said, tomorrow's our final day of this program, and I cannot wait to share our final training with you. And again, please, please remember always, you have the ability to experience joy every day, but it's all about recognizing it. So when you do recognize it today, congratulate yourself. Give yourself all of that grace and remember that you deserve it. See you tomorrow.